I had a bit of a crisis of faith yesterday. I was standing in line at the grocery store, just waiting to pay for my oat milk. And I did the thing, the thing.
Well, I know the thing.
I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and my thumb just started twitching. I opened one social app, scrolled for 30 seconds, felt nothing, closed it, opened another one, scrolled past 3 ads and an argument about a movie I haven't seen, and just closed it.
The muscle memory of boredom.
Exactly. It was purely automatic. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just checking for a pulse. And honestly, all I got was noise. Just a wall of static. A vacation photo from someone I met 5 years ago, sandwiched between a doom and gloom headline and, I don't know, an ad for socks.
It's the modern condition, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are drowning in content, absolute oceans of it, but we are completely starving for context.
Starving for context. That is exactly it. I feel like we've reached this saturation point where the feed, that infinite scroll we all fought to curate 10 years ago is actually, well, it's broken. It doesn't serve us anymore.
It's just a conveyor belt of stuff.
It is. It's fatigue. Pure and simple. We've optimized for engagement, but we forgot to optimize for utility.
Right.
And look, being in this industry, I've become incredibly cynical. I see pitch decks every single week. It's the new town square. It's Twitter, but on the blockchain.
It's Instagram, but for audio.
Yes. And usually when you peel back the layers, it's just the same old algorithmic feed with a slightly different color palette. So when the technical documentation for this new platform, VePulse, landed on my desk, my skepticism meter was pegged at maximum.
I remember you messaging me. You said, please tell me this isn't just another clone.
I did. But then I started reading the architecture notes, not the marketing fluff, the actual engineering specs. And I had a bit of a realization. We aren't looking at a social network in the traditional sense here. We're looking at what I'd call a location-based context engine.
That's the distinction.
Yeah.
And that is why I think this deep dive is going to be different. VePulse bills itself as a next-generation hyper-personalized news and social platform. Now, that is a mouthful of buzzwords, I grant you.
It's a lot, yeah.
But the way they are using Google Cloud Platform GCP to solve the problem of noise is actually fascinating. They are trying to solve the engineering problem of how you make the internet feel local again.
So that's our mission today. We are going to strip away the branding. I don't care about their logo or their marketing slogans. I want to look under the hood.
Let's do it.
We're going to deconstruct VePulse from the user interface down to the database logic that supposedly prevents it from melting down when a global event happens.
Let's get into the mechanics.
Okay, let's start with the atomic unit. On Twitter, it was a tweet. On Instagram, a post. What are we dealing with here? Because usually platforms fail because they don't know what they want people to post. It's just a generic box.
Right, that what's on your mind box.
Okay.
On VePulse, the core unit is called a dispatch. But here's the immediate difference. Intent is baked into the structure. On most platforms, you get that blank text box. Maybe you can attach a photo, but the system treats it all as just content. It's a blob of data.
And
VePulse forces you to categorize the dispatch before you even start typing.
forced categorization. That sounds like friction. Users usually hate friction.
Yeah.
We want to tap and post in 2 seconds.
It is friction, but it's productive friction.
Yeah.
It forces a moment of thought. You have to choose. Is this a thought? That's your standard text. Is it a happening that is specifically for live camera posts, something occurring right now?
In front of you.
Exactly. Is it a memory for a photo gallery,
Yeah.
an event, or a poll?
I see. So if I click happening, I'm telling the algorithm, hey, this has temporal urgency. This is live.
Precisely. It signals priority. A happening carries more weight in the real-time algorithm than a memory. It helps the system sort signal from noise before the AI even touches it. If there's a fire downtown, that's a happening. If you're reflecting on a book you read, that's a thought.
And the system treats them differently.
Because they are different.
Okay, that handles input. But the biggest vector for noise, and frankly misinformation, is the share button, the retweet. Someone takes a video, strips the context, adds a fiery caption, and suddenly it's viral for all the wrong reasons. How do they handle that?
They use a mechanism called redispatch. Now, on the surface, it looks like a quote tweet. You share a dispatch, add your commentary. But under the hood, the data structure is totally different. It uses a rigorous deduplication method.
Deduplication. Okay, unpack that. Why does a database term matter to the average user scrolling on their couch?
Well, think about a viral video. On a legacy platform, if that video is shared 100,000 times, you often end up with 100,000 separate instances. The conversation just fractures.
It's chaos.
It is. With a redispatch, the system retains the original dispatch ID as the absolute source of truth.
So it's anchoring everything back to the root.
Precisely. It creates a single, massive, unified conversation tree, rather than a forest of fragmented shouts. For the back end, it keeps the data clean. But for you, the user, it means you can always click through to the original context. It preserves the provenance of the information.
Provenance. That is a crucial word these days. Knowing where the thing actually came from. Okay, so we have dispatches, but where do they live? One of the features that jumped out at me was this concept of pulses. To me, that just sounds like a fancy word for a channel or a topic.
And in some ways it is. You have your standard verticals, automotive pulse, finance pulse, space pulse. Those are topical. If you like cars, you go to automotive pulse.
Standard stuff.
But the innovation is in how they handle the general feed, specifically through a UI element they call dynamic pills.
Dynamic pills. Sounds like something from the Matrix. Or a pharmacy.
Laughs. It's definitely a UI term, but it's descriptive. So picture the top of your screen. On every other app, those tabs are static. Following, for you, trending, they never change.
They're hard-coded.
Right. On VePulse, those pills rewrite themselves based on your GPS coordinates.
Give me a use case. Let's say I'm getting on a plane to New York.
Okay. You're at JFK, you open the app, your pills say Queens, New York City, tri-state area. You fly to London, you land at Heathrow, turn off airplane mode, open the app. The interface is physically changed. The pills now read Hounslow, London, United Kingdom.
So the app is answering the question, what is happening here?
Yes, without you having to search for a hashtag. The architecture prioritizes location to serve these concentric circles of relevance. It assumes your physical reality is the most important context you have.
That is actually remarkably clever. It solves that feeling of being a digital tourist where you're physically in one place, but your phone is still showing you content from home.
It anchors the digital experience to the physical world. And think about the utility. If there's a transit strike in London, you need to know that now. You don't need to know about a traffic jam back in New York.
But here's the problem. The general public can be, let's say, intense. If I post a happening, say I see a protest, and I upload it, the comment section usually turns into a dumpster fire within minutes.
Ah, the comment section. The place where nuance goes to die.
Right. How does VePulse handle that?
Well, every dispatch has a dedicated dispatch chat. It's a real-time chat interface, not a static thread. But the feature that really caught my eye is something they call Cipher Mode.
Cipher Mode. Now we are getting into spy movie territory.
It feels a bit like that. It's a privacy feature. If a user sends a message in Cipher Mode, maybe it's sensitive info or spoiler for a movie, the text appears blurred in the chat.
Okay, so it's pixelated, unreadable.
Completely. To reveal it, the recipient has to perform a long press on the message. They call it a glass overlay effect. As long as you are holding your thumb down, the text is clear. The moment you let go, it blurs again.
Why do that? Why not just a click to reveal button?
It's about intentionality. A click is passive. We click things by accident all the time. A long press is active engagement. You have to want to read that message.
I like that. It adds a layer of good friction between the user and the content. It's like a built-in "are you sure" prompt.
Plus, it has security benefits. It supports ephemeral viewing messages that vanish. And it includes screenshot detection where the OS allows it.
Okay, so we have structured dispatches, location-shifting interfaces, and James Bond privacy modes. But my main issue with real-time apps is still the sheer volume. If a major news event happens, I don't want to wade through thousands of thoughts to figure out what's going on.
And that is where VePulse brings in the heavy artillery. Gemini 3.
The AI model.
Yes. But they aren't using it to generate content. They're using the Gemini 3 API as a summarization layer.
Okay, walk me through that.
Let's say a new policy is announced. Within 10 minutes, you might have 50 dispatches about it, video, angry reactions, supportive analysis. Gemini 3 ingests that whole cluster of data and generates a concise summary at the top of the pulse.
So I get the Cliffs Notes version without scrolling for 20 minutes.
Exactly. But it goes a step further. It doesn't just summarize. It suggests follow-up questions. It tries to drive engagement deeper and might ask, how will this affect downtown parking? Or what is the budget impact?
That's interesting. Instead of just prompting me to, it's prompting critical thinking. It's trying to get you to interrogate the data.
It changes the mode of interaction from emotional reaction to, well, intellectual curiosity.
Yeah.
And to power those answers, they've built the semantic search engine.
Okay, pause. Semantic search. This term gets thrown around everywhere. For the listener who isn't a database engineer, explain it without using the word algorithm or vector.
Laughs, challenge accepted. Okay. Old school search is keyword matching. If I search for Jaguar, the database looks for the letters Jaguar. It gives me the animal, the car, the football team. It doesn't know the difference.
It's dumb matching.
It's literal. Semantic search understands intent. It knows that if I type fastest cat, I want the animal. If I type British luxury sedan, I want the car. It maps the meaning of the words.
So in the context of VePulse,
If you search best place for quiet study, the system understands you mean libraries or coffee shops, even if the posts don't use those exact words. It connects reading to study.
and how do they pull this off in real time? That sounds heavy.
It is. They use the Tably API and Vertex AI matching engine. They pre-compute all these connections and store them. And the kicker is, they store these pre-computed answers in a Redis cache.
Redis, that's in-memory storage, right?
Yes, it means the data is living in the computer's RAM, not on a hard drive. It's the difference between grabbing a paper from your desk versus walking down the hall to a filing cabinet. The query response time is under 1 second.
And that speed is non-negotiable. If I wait 3 seconds for search, I'm gone.
In the mobile world, 500 milliseconds is immediate. 3 seconds is an eternity.
Okay, this brings me to the part of the show where I put my skeptic hat firmly back on. This all sounds beautiful on paper. But we are talking about a global platform. We saw Twitter's fail whale. We've seen Instagram go down. If a major global event happens and 10 million people jump on VePulse at once, how does this thing not melt?
This is where we get to geek out on the Google Cloud Platform, GCP architecture, because they built a hybrid model designed specifically for elasticity.
Elasticity, that's the key word. Walk us through the stack.
The front door, the API layer, is built on Cloud Run. This is a serverless platform,
Serverless, meaning there are no servers.
meaning there are no permanent servers that VePulse has to manage. Cloud Run auto-scales per request. Think of it like a grocery store that can instantly open 5,000 checkout lanes the second the line gets long, and then close them the second the customers leave.
So they aren't paying for 5,000 lanes when the store is empty at 3 a.m.
Exactly. It's cost-efficient, and more importantly, it's crash-resistant. If traffic spikes 1,000%, Cloud Run just spins up more containers. You don't get a site-down error.
Okay, so the front door stays open. What about the database? That's usually the bottleneck.
And this is where their hybrid model is brilliant. They split the data based on its personality.
It's personality.
Yeah. Think about it. Some data is rigid. User profiles, settings, who follows who. That doesn't change every second. For that, they use Cloud SQL running Postgres. It's a relational database. It's the filing cabinet.
Okay, standard stuff.
But for dispatches, chat, and the real-time happenings, that is chaotic, fast, unstructured data. For that, they use Firestore. Firestore is a NoSQL database built for real-time syncing. It can handle millions of writes per second.
So using the right tool for the right job, SQL for the boring stuff, no SQL for the stream.
Precisely. But there is one more layer, and this is the secret sauce for speed, the caching strategy. We mentioned Redis. They use Memory Store, which is Google's managed Redis service.
This is a hot versus cold concept.
Exactly. Imagine a hot dispatch, a post going viral. If every time a user wanted to see it, the app had to go all the way back to Firestore, the database would choke. Instead, VePulse identifies hot dispatches and moves them into Redis.
Into the system memory.
Yeah. It's like keeping the popular files on your desk instead of the filing cabinet. The hot stuff lives in RAM. The older, cold dispatches live in Firestore or Cloud SQL. This ensures the viral content loads instantly.
I want to circle back to pulses for a second. You said trends move from local to global. How does the system technically decide that?
That is the job of the event pipeline. It uses a service called PubSub.
Publisher subscriber.
Think of it as a giant funnel for events. Every click, every vote, every chat, that's an event. PubSub collects millions of these tiny signals. It's the nervous system.
And where do those signals go?
They get past the data flow, which is the brain doing the math in real time. It calculates velocity.
Velocity.
How fast is this spreading? If a post gets a lot of engagement in Brooklyn, Dataflow flags it for the local pulse. If people in neighboring boroughs start sharing it, the system promotes it to the province level. If it keeps growing, it hits nation pulse.
So it's a meritocracy of engagement filtered by geography.
Yes, but, and this is critical, the system maintains separate trend tables for UGC, user-generated content, and newsroom, verified news.
Oh, that is actually vital. So the funny cat video doesn't bury the election results.
Exactly. They run in parallel tracks, so you can see what's trending in entertainment without losing sight of what's trending in civic news. All this data is stored in BigQuery, but the live hot list is served right back out of that Redis cache.
It's impressive. I mean, usually when we talk about these apps, we talk about features. But here, the feature is the architecture. The way they've chained Cloud Run, Firestore, and Redis, it's built to handle the exact problem we started with: noise.
That's the key takeaway. The architecture isn't just about keeping the site up, it's about filtering the noise. By forcing content through these geographic and semantic sieves, local versus global, UGC versus news, hot versus cold, the system does the heavy lifting so your brain doesn't have to.
And using Gemini 3 to summarize it all.
It's a very modern approach. It acknowledges that attention is a scarce resource, and it treats your attention with a little bit of respect.
So to recap, for everyone listening who might be thinking, do I really need another icon on my home screen? VePulse isn't just a clone. It's a platform where your location dictates your context, literally rewriting the tabs as you move. It uses a dispatch system that forces structure and offers privacy with that glass overlay Cipher mode.
We're backing it all up is a Google Cloud stack that scales automatically, separates the hot viral content from the cold archives, and uses AI not to generate text, but to understand what you're actually looking for.
It's a compelling argument. I'm still a skeptic. I need to see if people actually use it. The best tech in the world doesn't matter if the town square is empty, but the blueprint is solid. It feels like an app built for 2026, not 2016.
It feels like an app built for adults who want to know what's going on, not just get dopamine hits.
And that is a refreshing change of pace.
Absolutely.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a thought. We spend so much time curating our feeds, following this, muting that, but VePulse proposes a different model. One where the machine does the curation based on the physical reality of where you are. So here's the question. If our social feeds automatically adjusted to where our feet are standing and used AI to fact-check and summarize the noise in real time, would we finally stop doom scrolling and actually start understanding the world around us?
That is the billion-dollar question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.